So about a year ago, I did a video covering the 2024 Essential Habitat Animals wish list over on the Frontier forums, which has been run by SuzieSky for the last couple of years. And this is what Frontier has used in creating the rosters for the previous couple of DLCs. I mean, not necessarily Barnyard, that was sort of a more England and American focused domestic animal pack, but in terms of most packs, like the Grasslands pack, the Tropical pack, the Eurasia Animal pack, Zookeepers pack, and Oceania pack, among various others, this is what Frontier has used to be able to determine what animals are going to be in a DLC. And SuzieSky has rolled out the 2025 wish list based on a series of votes by many people over on the forums, and I do encourage many of you after watching this video to go over there and put down your list of your most wanted animals. And yeah, it'll certainly help get the animals that we really want in Planet Zoo with the next couple of DLCs, however many there are left. But I'll leave the link to that forum thread in the description and you can go leave your votes. But let's get into the current list, which is quite hefty, almost 300 animals, so I'm going to go through it relatively quickly. So first is Vicuña at 282, which actually has 0 votes, so I don't know how it's on the wish list, but these are the wild relatives of alpacas and actually have the most valuable fleece on the planet. At 281 we have the Bontebok, a species of antelope that was almost extinct in the wild but has since been brought back from the brink. Same with the Arabian Oryx, which was extinct in the wild, but through recent years has been reintroduced into their wild range. The African civet at 279 is a species I'm surprised to be this far down, but because it's a pretty cool species and one of the largest civets, and I think the largest in Africa, but would be a cool nocturnal animal. 278 we have the tufted puffin. 277 marbled cat, which is a small cat from Southeast Asia. The spectacled eider at 276, one of the many duck species found within the Arctic Circle. At 275, the Zanzibar red colobus, a specific red colobus subspecies from the island of Zanzibar off the coast of Tanzania. 274, we have the Tonkin snub-nosed monkey. 273 we have Central African slender-snouted crocodile, which was actually recently classified as a distinct species. The 272 with the giant kua of Madagascar. 271 we have the marine otter, which is different from the sea otter, as this is a species that is semi-aquatic and does not spend much of its life at sea. It's also much smaller and found on the coastlines and estuaries of South America. 270 we have the Great Indian Bustard. 269 the West African crocodile. 268 the California quail. 267 Leicester flamingo. 266 the yellow spotted monitor of Australia. 265 white striped Leucopsis, which I believe is a macropod from Papua New Guinea. 264 the Australian wood duck, which is actually a common species I see around quite a bit. 263 the New Zealand shoveler. 262 the pied avocet. 261 the Peruvian pelican. 260 the eastern long-beaked echidna, which I believe there's only one of these in captivity at Taronga Zoo in Sydney. 259 the ground cuscus of New Guinea. 258 the pig-nosed turtle. 257 the grey-winged trumpeter. 256 the Australian brush turkey. 255 the common cousimons, which I believe is a small relative of mongooses from Africa. 254 is the white-naped mangabe. 253 is the Bolson's tortoise, which is one of the many tortoises found in North America. 252, the Southern Plains Grey Langur. 251, a surprising place on this list, the crocodile monitor, which is a largely arboreal and brightly coloured monitor lizard species. 250, the Grivet monkey. 249, the Fulvous whistling duck. 248, the Azara's night monkey. 257, the Blessbok, which is often confused with the Bontebok and vice versa, but is much more common. 246, the golden-headed lion tamarin. 245, the Eurasian spoonbill. 244, the Malagasy giant rat of Madagascar. 243, the African sacred ibis. 242, the hand-standing spotted skunk, which has various species, but it was just listed as spotted skunk on the wish list. 241, the Pacarana, which is a rodent I didn't actually know about for quite a while, but they are actually one of the most important rodents in the Amazon and are part of a list of large mammals that needs reintroduction into their native range as part of a climate movement. 240, the Montezuma quail. 239, the magpie goose. 238, Indian star tortoise. 237, the Indian runner duck. 236, the hooded seal. I actually don't know if these guys are in captivity, but they're a pretty cool seal, and I think Great Cake Mods just made a mod for him. 235, the groundhog. 234, great egret. 233, the golden-bellied mangabey. 232, cottontail, which is a species of rabbit from the Americas. 231, the Chilean flamingo. 230, the blue-spotted tree monitor, which would be a beautiful addition to the game, but it's a shame it's so low. 229, the Asian forest tortoise. 228, the Andean flamingo. 227, the white-bellied spider monkey. 226, the swift fox. 225, the spotted-necked otter of Africa. 224, our beautiful Palawan peacock pheasant that was just included in East Coast Conservation Park. 223, we have the painted terrapin. 222, the leopard tortoise, which I believe is the 4th largest tortoise in the world. Correct me if I'm wrong. 221, the Cory bustard. 220, the jackrabbit, of which there are, I think, 2 species at least. 219, the guinea pig. Surprised to see it this low. 218, the giant Asian pond turtle. 217, the dugong. It stands about as much of a chance as the manatee. However, manatees are much more common in captivity than dugongs, as I believe only the Sea Life Sydney Aquarium has a dugong in captivity. 216, the crab-eating macaque. 215, the Barrel or Himalayan blue sheep. 214, the Arctic hare, which I think only has 1 captive representation. 213, the Chiru or Tibetan antelope, which has actually never been successfully kept in captivity, as they are so well adapted to their high altitude living. 212, the red-faced spider monkey. 211, the red jungle fowl, which would be a pretty colourful chicken to get. 210, the marsh deer. 209, the Humboldt penguin. I thought this guy was like the most common penguin in captivity, but it's this low, I guess. 208, the grey heron of Africa. 207, the brown or Cape fur seal. 206, the barasinger. 205, the Australian freshwater crocodile, which is only our second crocodilian after the saltwater crocodile in Australia. 204, the zebu, which is a cattle breed perfectly adapted to dry conditions. 203, the spotted cuscus. 202, the rhinoceros iguana, which is a shame. I love these guys. These are one of my favourite lizards. 201, the margay. 200, the golden jackal. 199, Darwin's rhea, also known as the lesser rhea from the Patagonian steppe. 198, the tufted deer. 197, the ring-tailed bonsera, which would actually be a really cool species. These are one of the many small carnivorous mammals from Madagascar. 196, the northern Luzon giant cloud rat. 195 is the leatherback sea turtle. Yeah, this is a species that will never come into the games. These guys have never been kept successfully in captivity, and I don't think ever will. They are a very specialized pelagic animal. And 194 is another species that, though it has been kept in captivity before, it was at another time, and I think the Javan rhinoceros, though captivity is still a possible option to potentially save this animal, currently it is an impossible animal to keep as they're so endangered. We really don't want to risk losing any individuals to a poor captive attempt. 193, the Asian golden cat. 192, the waterbuck, which is actually a very common species in zoos. I haven't been able to come across one, but I know that many other zoos in Australia do actually have this animal. 191, the six-banded armadillo. 190, oh my boy, the Cuban crocodile. This is one of the crocodiles that I think should be in Planet Zoo, as they are largely unique compared to most. They're much more adapted to a land-based existence and are probably the fastest crocodilian on land. And are critically endangered too. But I would love to see these guys. If you go into the forums, vote for this guy, because it's worth adding. 189, the jaguarundi. 188, the African forest elephant. They're a really cool animal, very iconic of the Congo Basin, but I think they only have one captive representation in the zoo in Japan. So it definitely stands a chance of being added. 187, the patas monkey. 186, the huanaco, one of the most common land mammals in Patagonia, and I think the largest land mammal in Patagonia. 185, the cheetal or axis deer. 184, the orca. Now, I am not the first person to mention this, but orca just should not be in captivity. And even though it's a game, orca just don't belong in a zoo. 183, the Eurasian otter. 182, the common genet. 181, the brown hyena. Now, brown hyenas, I do actually love brown hyenas. They're really cool animals. Would love to see them, but they don't really have the largest captive representation. 180, the black-crested macaque, known for its facial expressions and use in memes. 179, a slow loris species of any kind. 178, the Eurasian brown bear. 177, the red howler monkey. 176, the South African spring hare. 175, the blackback jackal. 174, the bald uakari, which I believe only has one example of captive representation outside of its native range. 173, the beluga whale, which is actually one of the more successful cetaceans in captivity. Don't know its likelihood of actually being added to Planet Zoo, as I don't think they're kept in a general zoo anymore. I think Point Defiance Zoo was the last one in America, and now they're all just kept in aquariums. 172, the Nigerian dwarf goat. 171, the bobcat. 170, the Nubian ibex, which is actually a pretty common ibex in zoos, and I think more common in the alpine. 169, the Ankole-Watusi cattle, which are known for having the largest horns of any cattle breed. 168, the Kakapo, which is the only truly flightless parrot found in New Zealand, critically endangered, and is not kept in the zoo, but I do believe there is actually a rescue centre that breeds these animals and looks after them in a captive setting and then releases them into the wild. So Kakapo at least stands a slim chance of being added into the game. 167, the chamois. 166, the bottlenose dolphin. Now, bottlenose dolphins are probably the most successful cetacean in captivity. Whether it's right or wrong to keep them, that's another conversation, but dolphins are that iconic that I think Planet Zoo should at least have this one. This is the only dolphin that I would suggest, as they are widespread in captivity and can be housed in pretty decent exhibits when given the proper funding, so we'll see about this one. 165, the Asiatic lion. 164, the olive baboon. 163, Iberian wolf, which is a grey wolf subspecies from the Iberian Peninsula, which encompasses Spain, Portugal, and I think Andorra as well. 162, the South American tapir. I was about to say tapir, but I don't think it's pronounced like that. 161, the Shetland pony. 160, the Cape Barren goose. 159, the West African slender-snouted crocodile, which would be a really cool African crocodilian to get in the game. 158, the Southern screamer. 157, the mountain hare, which does look a lot closer to an Arctic hare, and does have captive representation, so this could potentially be a substitute. 156, the cargoo of New Caledonia. 155, the Goliath heron, the world's tallest species of heron. 154, the Vulturine guinea fowl. 153, the Sulawesi bear cuscus, which is probably one of the only cuscus that are actually widespread in captivity, at least having 4 institutions. 152, the rhesus macaque. 151, the red-footed tortoise. 150, the Gentoo penguin, which is actually a penguin that I think is very important to have in the game, as they're very common in captivity and are often always displayed with king penguins or rockhopper penguins. But every zoo I've seen that's had king penguins has had Gentoos as well, so I think they're just a good species to have as a companion species of penguin in those exhibits to diversify the selection. 149, the brown spider monkey. 148, the Australian brolga, which is our second tallest flying bird after the Saris crane. 147, the Austin's palm civet. 146, the great blue heron of North America. 145, the common or ringneck pheasant. 144, the eastern grey kangaroo, a species that I am very familiar with and would certainly love to see added into the game as part of our sort of walkthrough kangaroo and wallaby exhibits. 143, the bar-headed goose, one of the highest flying birds in the world. 142, the endangered Chinese alligator. 141, the superb lyrebird is perhaps the Australian bird that I want to see added the most, as they mimic all sorts of sounds. They would be incredibly, well, they'd just be incredible, to say the least, to add into the game, as they can be kept in temperate Australian exhibits, and they can mimic all sorts of sounds. If you hear a koala making a sound, a superb lyrebird might make it too. They could mimic all sorts of sounds that exist in Planet Zoo, and I think that would make it a very interesting bird to include. 140, my favourite crocodilian, the false gharial. I'm pleased to report that I'm not the only person voting for it this time on this list. 139, the yellowback duiker of the rainforest of Africa. 138, the coconut crab, as one of the largest invertebrates alive today. I could see it being both an exhibit and a habitat animal, especially if you have this tropical island zoo. You could certainly keep the coconut crab out and about. 137, the Barbary macaque, which is found in northern Africa and a population in Gibraltar. 136, the sandhill crane. 135, the common dwarf mongoose. 134, the klipspringer. Both the klipspringer and dwarf mongoose are actually often displayed together. 133, the grey fox, one of few canids that is very good at climbing trees. 132, the Diana monkey. 131, the common eland, which is actually a species of antelope I would love to see, as they're one of the largest and very common in captivity. Hence the name, I guess, but they're very common animals. I've seen them many times in zoos, and I would certainly love to see them added into the game. 130, the endangered bantang. 129, the Ethiopian wolf. As much as I love Ethiopian wolves, because of Ethiopia's exploitation laws, there are no Ethiopian wolves in captivity. Though they could potentially do well in captivity, there hasn't really been an attempt to go off. 128, the takahe of New Zealand, a large relative of the swamp hen. 127, the marine iguana, another animal that is not allowed to be displayed in captivity due to Ecuadorian laws about exploitation of Galapagos Island species, and I don't think they've ever had a successful attempt before that law was put in place. 126, the lowland anoa of Sulawesi. 125, the greater bilby, also known as the Australian Easter bunny, is a large species of bandicoot that I would certainly love to see in the game, as they are one of the most famous threatened species in Australia, and one of the most famous Australian species in general. Though I don't think there's any bilbies outside of Australia, but in Australian zoos they are pretty common in our nocturnal houses. 124, the black caiman, the largest member of the alligator family, bigger than the American alligator and all the other caimans in South America. And I think they are the largest crocodilian in all of Latin America. But they're a very cool animal, and I'd love to see them in the game. 123 is another very cool marsupial, the tiger or spotted-tailed quoll, which is currently the second largest carnivorous marsupial after the Tasmanian Devil. However, unlike the devil, these guys can climb trees quite well, and I would love to see these guys, as they're one of my favourites. 122, the endangered red wolf of North America. 121, the black-footed ferret, an endangered mammal, mustelid, I should say to be more specific, that was recently successfully cloned and had a successful breeding with that cloned individual. 120, the banded mongoose. What would be the real-life Timon, as banded mongoose are known to hang around with common warthogs a lot more often than meerkats do. 119, the brown or European hare. 118, the Azara zaguti. 117, the southern poodoo. 116, the numbat, which is the closest living relative of the extinct thylacine or Tasmanian tiger. Very cool marsupials, would love to see them. 115, the kinkajou, a largely frugivorous species from Central and South America, and I think the second dubbed carnivorous mammal with a prehensile tail. But they are, of course, largely frugivorous and feeding on nectar much of the time, more than small animals, although I do believe it does happen. 114, the bighorn sheep. 113, the red-legged seriema, the closest living relative of the extinct terror birds that once dominated South America. 112, the Flemish giant rabbit. 111, the Prevost squirrel, a very common rodent in captivity. 110, the saddle-billed stork. 109, the domestic yak. 108, the ocellated turkey. 107, the ringtail. 106, the Australian pelican, certainly a pelican species I'd like to see, as they're very common in Australian zoos and just in the wild in general, but I think they're also found throughout Indonesia as well. 105, the red-shanked Duke langur. 104, my favourite of the big cats, the Sumatran tiger. 103, the alpine marmot. 102, the tallest animal on the planet, the Maasai giraffe. 101, the harbour seal. And lucky 100, the Brazilian porcupine. Now getting into the final 100, 99, the Japanese sorrel, which is a species that was actually included in the very first zoo Tycoon. 98, the yellow-throated marten. 97, the Grevy's zebra, the world's largest equid. At least wild equid. 96, the nilgai. 95, the impala. 94, the leopard seal. Now, leopard seals have been kept in captivity before at the Taronga Zoo in Australia. Those two individuals were rescues, and unfortunately, after a few years, had to be euthanized as they just couldn't, be kept successfully in captivity. But it's a possibility. As much as I love leopard seals, I don't think it's likely. 93, the green sea turtle. 92, the giant armadillo, the animal, the current largest claw in the animal kingdom today belongs to this animal, and I do believe has one captive representation at least in Brazil. So it would be really cool to see this animal added, given its proboscis monkey level captive representation. 91, the aardwolf, a relative of hyenas but largely an insectivore. 90, the yellow-footed rock wallaby, a macropod I would certainly love to see in the game, and I think it's the most colourful species of wallaby. 89, one of my favourite wild cats, the fishing cat. 88, the largest antelope in the world, the giant eland. 87, the infamous marabou stork. The 86 is the gaur, the largest bovine on the planet. 85, the red-rumped agouti. 84, the lace monitor. 83, the North American wood duck. 82, the Argentine black and white tegu. 81, the Northern Plains grey langur. 80, the white stork. 79, the emperor tamarin. 78, the Himalayan monowl. 77, the Atlantic puffin. 76, the mountain goat. 75, the critically endangered Sumatran rhinoceros, which was successfully kept at the Cincinnati Zoo for a number of years, but had to be returned to Indonesia, unfortunately. But they are one of my favourite rhinos, if not my favourite. 74, the red-eyed southern rockhopper penguin. 73, the Guianan squirrel monkey, a subspecies of the common squirrel monkey. 72, the alligator snapping turtle, one of the largest freshwater turtles, and probably one of the most famous. 71, the greater kudu. 70, the West Indian manatee, a very common species, particularly in American institutions. Would love to see a manatee in the game, as they are such a beautiful animal. 69, a surprise addition to the wish list, the Aral turtle, which is one of the largest turtles in South America and could certainly work as a habitat animal. Yeah, I was really surprised to see this guy when I was reading the list. 68, the Aoudad or Barbary sheep, a very common species in captivity, often displayed alongside dromedary camels, at least in Australia. 67, the brown pelican, perhaps the most widespread pelican in North America, and I think it does go down to Central America too. 66, the Virginia opossum. 65, the Hawaiian goose, or nene, I think it's called. 64, the critically endangered radiated tortoise of Madagascar. 63, the North American porcupine. 62, another surprise rise through the ranks is the Francois langur, one of the most common langur species in captivity. 61, the white-tailed deer, a very common species in North America. 60, the white-nosed coati. 59, the bizarre eye of Madagascar, and yes, it is a lemur, as much as it's hard to believe. 58, another pleasant surprise, the western capercaillie, certainly one of my favourite bird species from Europe, and I would love to see this guy in like an evergreen or temperate forest animal pack, as they're a very beautiful bird, and when the males display, they have the most bizarre call. I mean, it's a very cool call, but yeah. North American river otter at 57. I believe this was one of the first mods created using the otter rig. 56, the black swan. 55, the cotton-top tamarin, a species I would love to see in the game. At 54, we have the adaptable coyote. 53, the golden snub-nosed monkey. 52, the southern tamandua. 51, the burrowing owl. 50, the parenti. 49, the bat-eared fox. 48, the eastern wild turkey. 47, the lion-tailed macaque, another animal that has risen up the wish list since the last 2024 wish list. 46, the southern ground hornbill. 45, the Pierre David deer, one of the only large land animals that has an extinct in the wild classification. 44, the gerenok, also known as the giraffe gazelle, due to their long necks and tendency to browse on higher vegetation. 43, the Nile crocodile, the most requested crocodilian on the list. 42, the American flamingo, a very widespread species in captivity. 41, the southern elephant seal. Now this is one that I'm hesitant on, as I know northern elephant seals have some captive representation, but I've never heard of a southern elephant seal being kept in the modern day. Although I think there was one at like a marine park, but hey, they're the largest seal in the world, so it would be pretty cool. 40, the raccoon dog, alongside the grey fox, one of few canids that can climb trees. 39, the match-cheese tree kangaroo. 38, the white-faced whistling duck, a very commonly displayed duck species. Alongside 37, the mallard, easily the most common duck species in captivity. 36, the Victoria crowned pigeon. 35, the de Brazza's monkey or de Brazza's guenon. 34, the golden pheasant. 33, my favourite primate, the gelada. 32, white-faced saki. 31, oh my little fella, the bush dog, one of my favourite South American animals. 30, the greater roadrunner, a very cool species of cuckoo that I'd love to see in the game. 29, the Reeves muntjac. 28, the helmeted guinea fowl, easily one of the most common birds in captivity. 27, the wapiti or elk. 26, the honey badger, the toughest animal in all of Africa. 25, the intimidating shoebill, which is actually closely related to pelicans, yet it's nicknamed the shoe-billed stork, but they are closer to herons and pelicans. 24, the rock hyrax. 23, the sea otter. 22, the most surprising appearance on this list, the black-capped squirrel monkey, is the most familiar squirrel monkey to me, as they're very common in Oceanian zoos, but I was not expecting to see this guy so high. But they are my preferred choice over the Guianan squirrel monkey, as they just have a lot nicer more vibrant colours, I should say, and that black cap to their head. But they are a very cool monkey species. I would love to see them in like a Latin America pack. 21, the long-legged, big-eared serval, a very common cat in captivity. 20, the American black bear. We've gotten into the top 20s. 19, the great white pelican. 18, the mandarin duck. 17, the scarlet ibis. 16, the black buck. 15, the ocelot. 14, the roseate spoonbill. 13, the greater rhea. 12, the golden lion tamarin. 11, the muskox. 10, the short-beaked echidna. 9, the mantled geriza or eastern black and white colobus has risen through the ranks greatly to get into the top 10. 8, the Goodfellows tree kangaroo. 7, the secretary bird. 6, the grey-crowned crane is the most requested bird in Planet Zoo. At least non-flying, that is. 5, the walrus. 4, the Geoffroy's spider monkey. 3, the Patagonian mara. 2, the South American coati. And number 1, the black howler monkey is the most requested animal on this 2025 animal wish list. And it's well deserved too, as we need a new world monkey, and the black howler is easily one of the most impressive. But that is the entire 2025 animal wish list. I do recommend you guys contribute to this list, as you can get the animals that you really want, as Frontier does read this list and the lists before it. So hopefully we can get a lot of the animals that are at least in this top 100, and maybe a few sneaky ones from lower down the list, as I would seriously like to see the Cuban crocodile and false gargoyle, as I am a big reptile fan. But otherwise, many of these animals are really cool. The top 100 has changed dramatically, and I really like the selection of animals that's up there. But yeah, I'll leave the link to the forum page in the description so you guys can go write your own lists and hopefully get your votes counted, and maybe the animal that you want the most will be added to Planet Zoo either in the coming year or just in a future DLC. But as for now, I will see you all in the next video. Bye bye.